general manager used to work at KGO when I was there, and he's an old time guy. Have you ever heard of Melanie Morgan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, her husband is a guy named Jack Swanson, who is the general manager, or was the general manager at KGO, now general manager at KCBS.
Yeah, Melanie, yeah, she's pretty decent.
Yeah, she's a hardcore conservative,
Yeah.
but she's basically a good gal.
Yeah.
She's,
She lives close by, too, I think.
Yeah, they both live in Moran. Yeah. She's funny, though. I sometimes tease her because I go, you don't really believe that stuff, do you?
Yeah. I sure do.
She sure does.
All right,
Yeah.
so we'll sort of think about one.
Yeah.
I got just a couple things.
Oh, sure. I got a good story about the NCAA tournament.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. And it's old, but it's local and it's fun. It's good.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. And now today, we don't have a special guest, so it's going to be just the two of us.
We always have a good time.
We do. A couple of things I wanted to bring up was Barry Bonds joining the Giants again.
Yeah, that's a neat story.
Okay, and then also teams that spent a lot of money but are not getting too much out of it when you look at their records
That
in
happens.
the NFL.
That happens.
And vice versa. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
And you said you've got a story about the NCAA?
Yeah, I think people will enjoy this one. Everybody's into the tournament now with all the great teams that are playing, whether it's UCLA or Arizona or Michigan or Louisville. But I've got a great Sweet 16 story for you from 1990 games that I covered here in the Bay Area.
And Duke? Oh, no, they got
out. I know.
Well,
I always think, that was strange. That was strange. I cannot figure that one out. It happens, though.
But I wonder if, the league or TV, if they're going, this isn't good. I mean, in one way, actually, it is good because you get these Cinderella teams.
Well, but actually, I mentioned, Michigan, Arizona, Louisville, UCLA, those are all teams that traditionally have been in the Sweet 16 and the Final Four.
And Kentucky?
I don't know.
I don't remember if they... I like to wait till it gets to the final.
I'll be honest with you. I'm going to sound terrible here. I just don't follow college basketball the way I used to.
But you'll watch the...
I'll watch the Sweet 16 in the Final Four.
Yeah.
No question, yeah. But I just don't follow it like I used to. I used to cover 10 or 12 games a year, and that's not a lot, but,
That's enough to keep your mind.
kind of get you into it, yeah.
All right, this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, providing mortgage investments that are still currently yielding over 7.5% secured by Bay Area real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that, especially since they're only at about 60% or less loan to value. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. And don't touch that dial because you're listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown and Bruce McGowan, and we will be right back. All right. Saves the file.
Saves the file. Yeah, I got my ass handed to me on the waves today. And I wasn't even riding the big ones. And they were big, strong waves. If you were in your 40s or 50s, you can handle it. I'm in my 60s, and I just haven't been on the water in a while. And it's like, let's just take the inside stuff, which was big enough. Inside stuff was as high as this room here.
That's still big.
Yeah, that was big. And I got the shit kicked out of me a couple times. Got pulled over the falls, That's when you just, but no problem. I didn't hit the bottom.
Okay.
And then the second time I was going up over the wave and it started to break and I had to push through it and it almost pulled me down.
How are you pretty good about holding your breath?
Oh, you have to be. Yeah. You can theoretically hold your breath for 40 seconds. Now, it's hard to do when you're swimming hard because you're breathing fast. But what happens is when you surf, you get into a rhythm with the waves. It's almost like you're so relaxed that when you go under the wave, you feel the pulse of the wave, the pulse of the ocean, and your body gets in tune with it. And it's
just don't panic.
No, you don't. I mean, I have panicked before, but it's funny. I don't panic anymore. I used to panic when I was in my 30s when I was much stronger.
Maybe because you were taking more chances.
Well, and also I didn't have the confidence I have now. Now I don't have the strength, but I've got the confidence.
We got to fun to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Actually, let's start off with that.
Yeah.
We got enough time to talk about stuff.
Okay.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. And just after we cut the break and before we just started this segment, Bruce and I were talking about him handling the waves. Now, not quite the Mavericks.
No. That's a whole different ballgame. That's extreme, large waves and I don't actually board surf. I body surf, and I've been doing it since I was a kid. But it's a wonderful exercise, Edward, and it totally gets you involved with the pulse of the planet, which is what I call when the waves are coming in, and it just relaxes you, and it's great exercise. And there are many places to do it here on the West Coast in California, especially here in Northern California. And even with the colder water here in Northern California, it's not that much colder. And there are a lot less guys in the water. So it's a lot more fun here in the Bay Area than it is down in LA. Because I've surfed in LA. It's nice down there, don't get me wrong. But I just don't like crowds. And you don't have to worry about crowds up here.
Well, yeah, you don't want people with boards hitting you.
Well, that happens. I mean, chances are you're all going in the same direction and it's just a glancing blow. You know, I've surfed or body surfed at beaches where there's been a lot of boards in the water in Hawaii, but I always manage to find a little open spot. The key with surfing is to just enjoy the feeling of weightlessness and the sound of the ocean as it just is all around you, and all the nonsense that bothered you during the year or during the day or during the month or whatever it was. You know, how many hours a day that you are into the routine, it all melts away, and you come back refreshed, and your mind is clear, and you just feel a lot better about yourself. And it's a great exercise, and also nothing quite like wriding down a wave.
And you can muse over God's creation.
Well, yeah, I don't think when I'm out there.
Yeah.
I get it. It's almost like an instinctive thing where you just feel comfortable in the water. You feel like a marine animal. You almost feel like one of those dolphins. I've seen dolphins out there, and I can, they put us to shame. Of course they do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm watching them and I'm thinking, God, that must be. I mean, that outside of maybe being an eagle, that would be probably the coolest animal to be on the planet. To be a dolphin.
Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Yeah.
And you.
Don Knotts.
Don Knotts, that's right.
There
You mentioned off air something about holding your breath for 40 seconds. Why 40 seconds?
Well, I'm not saying 40 seconds, but a good surfer, if you're in really good condition, should be able to hold their breath for 40 seconds, because if you're out on a really big day, and I never go out on really big days, but if you do and you get held under and a set comes in after another wave, and you're held under for a while, you're going to need to hold your breath for probably at least a half a minute and maybe longer.
Yeah, I mean, holding your breath for just 40 seconds really isn't much, but if you're panicking or if you're out of breath, that's when it's
That's tough. That's why you have to relax when you're out there, and that's most surfers who are doing it a lot are pretty relaxed people, and they're very calm when they're out there. It's not that you're not using up energy. You are.
Sure.
But you're focused and relaxed, and like I said, it's just not a big deal.
Well, I remember my brother can hold his breath for a long time.
Yeah.
He was doing some body surfing over at Simpson Beach,
Mm-hmm.
and he got hit by a wave. It took him under. The problem was every time he kept coming up, another
wave. I know that's happened to me a few times. Actually, it hasn't happened in a while, but I remember vividly it happening to me in 1993. I was 41 years old. It was the day after Christmas. I was out at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and a big set of about 10 to 12-foot waves came in. And they were coming in pretty fast and pretty strong. I was able to get under the first one, but I could feel it. I dove down. Maybe the water where it was breaking was about 8-9 foot deep. So I dove down almost to the bottom, but it pulled on me, and I came up. And when I came up, the second one was coming, and so I went down again. I didn't get deep enough. This one pulled me around and spun me around. And when I finally clawed my way to the surface, I looked up, and there was the third one right on top of me.
Oh
Kaboom! And I just thought to myself, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And for some reason,
You didn't die.
Well, no, I'm sitting here talking about it. I totally relaxed, and I figured there was another one after that, and I figured, I'm going to die. But for some reason, I relaxed. I remember relaxing, and then there wasn't another wave. And I remember getting out and thinking to myself, boy, that was kind of like a little pebble hitting me in the head, sort of as a warning.
Yeah.
You got to know your limitations. So I never have been out in a day quite like that since, and I was 41 at the time. I'm 64, almost 65 now, so that's 24 years.
The thing is, for me, I gotta touch the bottom.
Yeah, actually, it's better when you're surfing in deeper water for the simple reason that if the wave throws you and throws you down hard, you're not going to hit the bottom, so you're not going to break a shoulder or break your neck or hurt yourself. I hate short break. I like it breaking at least 6 foot deep and possibly 7 to 8 foot, because I know I'm not going to be, even on the biggest waves, I'm not going to be shoved into the sand and smashed down. That's how you get hurt.
Okay, so if how tall are you?
I'm almost 6'6".
6'6".
Yeah.
Okay, and figure close to, let's say if you're 5.5 feet
Right.
in the water, so you definitely can get your, let's say, shoulders above.
Right.
Even a big wave isn't going to bring you down must be.
Well, yeah, oh yes, it will. I mean, it depends on the size and how much power it has, but a big wave that's over 10 feet tall will throw you, theoretically can throw you 10 feet down underwater. It just depends on how the wave is breaking. If it's what's called a closeout wave, where the wave it just collapses, that's not the kind of wave you want to ride. Surfers prefer to get what's called a nice long shoulder, where they're in the curl, or they're, the white water is breaking on one side of them, and they're sort of scooting along away from the white water. But I find, shore break is just scary to me.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of times thrown into the sand, never got more than a bruise, but boy, I've heard stories of people breaking their necks at the Wedge in Newport Beach. That place, that's insane. I just don't go for that stuff. I mean, it's a great ride, and these guys are great athletes, but why risk, breaking your shoulder or your neck?
Oh, yeah,
You just to have a thrill? It's not worth it.
I know someone who did that.
Oh,
now,
nasty.
Yeah, I got thrown one time boogie boarding in Maui.
Oh yeah.
And
boogie boarding's a lot of fun. I've done that too.
It was, but it was one of those. I had the board, and I was thinking, can I jump over this one? And I didn't jump, and it was like the worst of the worst that could have happened.
Yeah, it happens. Well, it humbles you. I mean, and the thing is that even if you get humbled and held under and bounced around, it's so much fun out there. Unless you're just, overwhelmed, and most of the time people have a good enough sense to look out and, okay, that looks a little too big for me.
Sure.
Or you go out with somebody who knows what they're doing, and they kind of gradually. See, I went out with my dad out at, you mentioned Stinson Beach, and that's where I learned, and we were just in little 4 or 5 foot waves, and then once in a while 6 or 7 foot. I mean, from the bottom of the wave to the top.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting. Surfers measure waves from the backside, but that's not where the wave is breaking.
No.
It's breaking from the front.
So there, when they say it's 6 feet, it's probably 8 or 9 feet.
Yeah, today was supposed to be 8 to 9 feet at Rodeo Beach where I went, and the faces were about 12 feet. But they weren't crushing. They weren't dropping out. They were nice long rides, but I just couldn't get out on them. So I took the inside stuff, which was about, like I said, 6 to 7 foot, and it was strong enough as it was. And this is 50 yards offshore.
Well, when I got slammed down, I was thinking, gosh, is it just my imagination, or did I get really hit hard? And
no, not your imagination.
It wasn't, because a couple ladies came up to me and said, "We saw what happened. Are you okay?"
Yeah. Well, the great thing about getting wiped out in a wave sometimes is you get literally thrown through the air, and it's this incredible power, but you don't unless you hit the bottom or hit somebody, which is pretty rare. You hit somebody. Yeah. It's just like a free fall. It's like jumping off of a bridge, or one of those thrill rides at the roller coaster, where you just drop down and everything's cool. That's why it's so much fun.
So now, when you ride the curl,
right.
Generally, I know it depends on where you're at.
How long are you?
Yeah,
can you get? Well, it depends. It depends.
I mean, like it'll start one place because you're riding the curl. You might be a quarter of a mile away.
Well, theoretically, that has happened not so much with me, but with surfers. Now, surfers can go faster because the board moves more quickly over the water. I use what's called a hand ski, which attaches to my right wrist, and it allows me to plane on the wave and stay up high in the wave. And I can get out in front of the wave. If it drops out, it's not going to punish me and throw me around. I can get in front of it, and so I'm in front of the white water, kind of like somebody on a boogie board. Yeah. But you can get a long ride.
Don't lose grip on that.
No, I've had that thing I've had that thing hit me a couple times. It's no fun. Yeah, no fun at all. Well, it sounds like your phone is ringing. Edward's got a busy day here. I like the sounds that people's phones make. Everybody's got a different ring.
All right, so actually we're going to get to our first commercial break, and I forgot to tell you baseball.
Sounds good.
All right. We're getting into baseball season.
Yes, we are.
And let's see, I've got you'll get all 3 of these.
I don't know.
I wanted to do them easy.
Okay.
What major league baseball player went by the nickname Scooter?
Oh,
I figured I'd give you an easy one there. Yeah, every once in a while I like to pump up your.
Yeah, I got a good story about him, by the way.
Oh, do you? Okay,
yes,
we'll
I do.
come back and you'll tell us a good story about Yogi Berra. I mean, okay, stay with us. Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
All right. Yeah, he was doing the Yankees games when I was back there. He'd been doing it for years. That's a funny story, too.
Okay, good.
You get a kick out of this guy.
Every once in a while it's fine to just do stories,
Yeah. Well, that's what sports is all about. It's about the people that play the games. If I get this job, I'm not gonna make that my focus, but I'm gonna try to do as many of those kind of stories. Sure. Because from 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night, when you're doing these updates, you can just do a scoreboard update, and you should mention the scores. but have a little fun.
Absolutely.
Put something in there that's gonna, make people. Oh, that's a neat story about so and so. And play
How
a little
long would that
soundbite.
be? How long would I mean?
Anywhere from a minute and a half to 2 minutes.
Because you can only do so much in 2 minutes on a.
Well,
story,
you'd be surprised. That's the challenge. And I've learned. When I was at KGO, it was more like a minute and a half. But you use your words and your sound, just right. It sounds terrible, but you don't want a soundbite over unless it's really good over like 12 seconds. That sounds very narrow, but you can get if you edit it and get the right little phrase. It'll anyway.
Well,
yeah,
I'll
we'll
have
see.
to hear it.
Yeah, we'll see. There's no guarantee I got this job. I'm hopeful. It would certainly take a lot of load off.
Do I need to make a phone call?
That's funny. I didn't have anybody call on my behalf because I knew these guys are in my corner. And I guess after doing this for so many years, you figure, maybe your reputation.
They know you. They know you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. First trivia question. What Major League Baseball player went by the name of Scooter?
That was Phil Rizzuto of the
That
Yankees.
was,
Great
yes.
infielder and interesting story. Phil Rizzuto became a very fine broadcaster with the Yankees, play-by-play announcer, was a real character. He used to sometimes have fun when he was looking at his scorecard. He'd say something like, "Hey, what happened in the fifth inning? What happened to Davis? I don't have anything on him. Well, what did he do when he was batting?" And somebody said, "Well, why weren't you watching?" He said, "Well, I put WW here. Wasn't watching, so I don't." I mean, he'd leave sometimes in the seventh or eighth inning. This was later in his career. But he was a wonderful guy, an intimate of Yogi Berra and Joe DiMaggio and all the great Yankees. He played on some great Yankee teams.
Yeah.
And Phil retired well into his 70s. I think, I'm not sure if he's passed or not. If he has, it was fairly recently. He was a little guy, a little Italian guy, just a delightful fellow. And I only worked in New York 1 year, 1981. Yankees won the pennant that year. It was a strike short in the season. Reggie Jackson's last year with the Yankees. Dave Winfield's first year with the Yankees. And the Dodgers beat him in the World Series. Yeah. But Phil was and Bill White was that year. He and Bill White worked together for about 6 years. The former great. Bill White started with the Giants, played with the Cardinals, played with the Phillies. He was a part of the Curt Flood trade, actually the very controversial trade. And Curt Flood contested that trade and took it to court, and that really started the ball rolling for free agency in the 1970s. But Bill White was also president of the National League and very dignified, and he's one of the big reasons why the Giants did not leave San Francisco when they were sold conditionally to Tampa Bay interests. They stayed in San Francisco, and Bill White, the reason was that he didn't want any team moving to Tampa because when he was a player, he had terrible times with the local Caucasian folks down there who did not appreciate African Americans playing Major League Baseball, even though the doors had been open for almost 10 years. So he had a lot of problems at spring training. The black players had to find separate lodgings. They couldn't stay with the white players at spring training. And this went on pretty much through the mid-1960s, which was just, when you think about it, it's deplorable, but it's part of our history. So anyway, Bill White and Scooter, as you mentioned,
Holy cow!
Holy cow! Yeah, they were they're great guys and wonderful accommodation because Bill White was very dignified, sort of very not soft-spoken, but very careful with what he'd say. And Phil Rizzuto was always a live wire, kidding around, making jokes.
So if the Giants had been sold to a non-Florida team, do you think they would
a non-Florida owner?
Yeah,
at the time things were not going well, and there was no ballpark on the horizon for San Francisco. They were stuck at Candlestick, and Bob Lurie, the owner, did not like Candlestick, and the fans were not showing up in great numbers. They did win a division title in '87 and '89. They won a pennant, but the numbers of fans that showed up even after that was still about, a little more than half of what they're getting now. Yeah. So it wasn't really very good.
Well, for those who are not familiar with Candlestick, if it went into extra innings, they'd actually give you a pin because you survived.
The quad candlestick. Yeah, that started in 1983. Our friend Pat Gallagher, I got to get him on the show, former PR and marketing genius, started that campaign. I survived the freezing cold of Candlestick Park, and it was cold.
It was cold, yeah.
Of course, we weren't cold in the press box, though. We had the windows closed and the hot chocolate. Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, we stayed warm. I never got cold. I sat in the stands a few times as a kid. Well, many times as a kid, but mostly I went to day games out there when I was a kid.
And then, for the most part, day games were okay.
Yeah, they got windy. They got windy, but it wasn't freezing. You know, at night it was windy and cold. I mean, it was really.
When
nasty.
you were sitting there with hot chocolate in the window, did you yell "Wimps"?
No, I sat down there with my father-in-law. Insisted I sit with him once during a game in '97. This is late in the Giants' time at Candlestick, and my wife and I and my father-in-law sat right behind the dugout, and there were only about 5,000 people. This was a very good team, but they just were those bitterly cold nights. It was like a Tuesday. And I kept telling my father-in-law, let's go upstairs. There's an auxiliary press room up there that's got open windows, but they got a heater. This is where the guys shoot the video. We'll sit there. No, we're going to sit here. We got great seats. We're not moving. And my bones, I mean, you're just sitting there. You're not moving around. My bones were chattering.
Well,
that was nasty.
You know, as a fan.
My wife didn't complain about it, though.
Really?
No, she didn't complain about it at all. She was tough gal.
Well, because, you see, you're used to.
Well, her dad was tough.
Her dad was tough, but also
Yeah.
you were kind of used to having a nice little plush.
Yes, I was spoiled. I loved that. When I was a kid, I used to look up in the press box and think, God, what a great spot to watch the game.
Sure.
You get food, you get in those days they didn't have a TV monitor in there, but you get, all the stats, you get the yearbook, you get everything, and you get to sit next to Russ Hodges and Lon Simmons and famous sports writers like Bob Stevens. This is great, and I got to do that. So for years.
But a fan just sitting in the stands, you're not. Your blood's not moving.
No, it's not. And the nice thing about sitting in the press box is to this day, I get up always, every other inning and move around, walk around, maybe go make a bathroom run, get a cup of coffee, go talk to somebody on the other side of the press box, maybe even go upstairs and sit in with the guys who are doing the game on the TV, just, to hang out with them. That's a lot of fun.
Kruk and Kuiper.
Kruk and Kuiper. Mike Krukow and Dwayne Kuiper. Yeah, a couple former players. Great guys, by the way. And Mike Krukow is really... He's struggling health-wise. He doesn't have a fatal illness, but he's got this weird muscular problem where he can't walk upstairs, and he has balance problems. It's not Parkinson's, but he will not travel this year with the Giants on any trips outside of Denver. He goes to Denver, he'll go to Phoenix, he'll go to San Diego, he'll go to Los Angeles, all within the NL West. But any trips outside of the western or mountain regions, he will not travel because it's just too much of a problem. He's 66. We're the same age. 65. He was about 4 months older. Very good pitcher. All-star one year, won 20 games 1 year, and he's been a broadcaster. Most of our listeners are not from the Bay Area, so they don't know this. But Mike Krukow has broadcast the Giant games for the better part of 30 years. Wow. So, and Kuiper, Dwayne Kuiper, former major league player, infielder with Cleveland and with the Giants, has broadcast even longer with the Giants, and since about 86, I think. Yeah.
Well, just thinking when you mentioned about Mike Kurkow's health, it reminded me of Dwayne Clark.
Dwight Clark.
Did I say Dwayne?
No, that's okay. Dwight Clark, the wide receiver of the 49ers, who made the great catch in the NFC title game. He's got ALS, which will kill you probably within 5 years tops. But there are a lot of NFL players that have it. It's one of the sad byproducts of a very violent sport. A lot of people have the CTE, I think it's called, the brain problem. And Gale Sayers right now is got dementia. He's 76 though. But you think about how many games he played. He only played in the NFL for 6 years, but you figure he played in probably 14 games a year. And how many hits did he take? And he was a fierce runner. I mean, he was elusive, but he also got hit pretty hard. How many hits did that guy take?
Well,
hundreds. Hundreds. And those are tough. I mean, you see the shots that these guys take on the field. It's but they know the price they're paying. Clarence Davis, who was a great runner with the Raiders and from USC, he is still alive, but he's got dementia also. It's very sad.
Yeah, and back then, the penalties really weren't called.
No, the game was much rougher. But the players are bigger today and faster, so if they continue to hit the way they used to and allow them to hit the way they used to hit, with no penalties, we'd see a lot more problems.
Yeah.
But they're going to be problems regardless. You play that sport, you don't walk away, and I'm not just talking about your brain, but any part of your body. Yeah. You don't walk away unless you're just extremely lucky with more than some major residual problems.
Well, you got to figure all the offensive linemen, the knees.
Offensive linemen centers just get destroyed. I'm amazed Jim Otto is still around. Mike, the guy Ray Mansfield with Pittsburgh Steelers, who died, the first one to die of that brain problem. Yeah. He was, I think, 55. And Jim Otto is close to 70 now. Jim has had, I believe, in the neighborhood of 45 operations. Yeah. He's got both of his hips have been well, both of his knees replaced, both of his hips replaced. He's had cancer.
He lost one of his legs.
He lost. You're right. He did lose one of his legs. That's true. That's correct. And he's been on death's door about 4 or 5 times. But he is a man of deep faith.
Yeah.
He's got a very strong wife. He's got an amazing capacity for handling pain and adversity. He's just one of the strongest people I've ever met. He played in the NFL for 15 years without missing a game at center.
At center. Yeah.
You know, think about that.
That's amazing.
15 years, 1960 to 1974.
We had him on the show one time, and then we even asked him.
Yeah.
He said he wouldn't have done anything different.
No. Well, football players love the game. And you've played enough. Just you and I have both played as kids. We used to play tackle football with no pads, and we'd clobber each other. But we were little guys. We're 120, 130 pounds, 150 pounds top. I remember once a junior. I may have told this story to you before, but this guy who was a junior in our high school, I was a senior, and we were playing a game, and I was about 160 pounds. He was about a 190 linebacker, 5'11", just built like a little,
brick.
Yeah, and he hit me in the open field, and I just felt like I'd been cut in half. And I lay on the ground, and there were tears in my eyes. And he's standing over me, he's going, "What's the matter with you? I hardly touched you."
I got my bell rung once,
Yeah.
where I literally did see stars.
Oh, yeah.
And I probably suffered like a
Minor concussion. Yeah, you don't want to have that happen.
Yeah, because again, hitting your head directly on the hard dirt.
Oh.
And I got tackled by a guy who was 7 years older and about 80 pounds heavier.
Oh.
At least 80 pounds heavier.
Ouch. Ouch.
Little burst.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to cut to our second commercial. This is a lot of fun, I got to say.
Yeah, we're having a good time. Sorry about my voice. Like, my daughter gave me her cold about 2 weeks ago, and I can't get rid of it. She still got it. And my wife managed to, she had it for a week, and then it was gone. So she lucked out.
I've heard that a lot of going around.
Yeah.
Here's our second trivia question, all right? Here we go. Who was you'll know this one too. Who was the first major league player? Oh, I have to finish the sentence? Okay.
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know who the first major league player was.
Who was the first major league player to win the MVP in both the AL and the NL?
Ooh, that's a good one. I do know that answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to give me the teams and the years.
I will.
The birth date, the social security number, and the birth
Well, I know this fellow. I know this gentleman.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm pretty, if it's the guy I think.
All right, stay with us. You'll listen to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
All right. Oh, this is fun. We're having a good time. I got to tell my Hanky Other story, but and
okay.
I'm sure you have.
I just have a couple of things.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. I like it. We're just bouncing all over the place. So everything worked out okay with your out at the lighthouse? Is that still
No, it's still
going an ongoing thing? Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Really, she's doing a bang up job with it. But I don't think we're under the water anymore. But
well, that's good.
Yeah, but we're still having issues with workman's comp.
It's tough. It's hard. It's running a business it's a lot of headaches. My buddy he's like you. He owns a bunch of real estate. He was up at Guerneville today. He's got 5 houses up there that are all. I guess a big tree came down and wiped out all the electrical, and luckily his insurance covered most of it. He ended up paying $500, but he's one of those guys who, he's like you, he has to be there. He has to be, on site helping out.
Well, and our flood insurance didn't cover it because their buildings got damaged.
Oh boy!
So they took out the roads. That's
too bad.
All right, here we go.
Still have to go out there sometime. I'd like to. It's just
wait till summertime.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. I asked my wife, and she goes, "That doesn't really sound that exciting to go out there." I said, "No, it sounds really kind of fun."
I mean, it definitely your daughter will like it.
Definitely,
if you just want to sit back. And
that's
relax
what I'd like to do.
And just have a little fire.
Yeah. I'd like to do that. I really would.
All right, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. Second trivia question with Bruce says he knows the answer.
I think I know the answer.
Who was the first major league player to win the MVP in both the AL and the NL? We're talking baseball.
I believe it was Frank Robinson.
It was Frank Robinson.
And I believe he won it in '61 with the Reds.
Yes.
And in '66 with the Orioles.
Good job.
Well, I got to know Frank quite well. I covered the Giants starting in 1982 when I returned from New York for radio network purposes. I was doing a lot of freelance radio work for these networks out of New York, and got to know Frank. He was the Giants manager, and Frank was not somebody who was all chummy and friendly and happy, but if you got to know him and he respected you, he was fun to deal with. But he was a tough kid from inner city Oakland, and he played with guys like Kurt Flood and Veda Pinson and
Paul Blair.
Paul Blair, yeah, and of course Bill Russell came out of that same unit. I think Russell might be a few years older,
but he played with the Dodgers.
I'm talking about Bill Russell, the basketball player.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Paul Silas, who played in the NBA and was a coach. Yeah, no, there were some great athletes coming out of there. I mentioned Kurt Flood and Veda Pinson, but more recently, you think of Marshawn Lynch came out of Oakland. Ricky Henderson came out of Oakland. Yeah, so there's some amazing athletes to come out of that area. But anyway.
You wanted to mention something about Hank Gathers.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell a quick story about Hank Gathers. I'm not sure if our listeners, I'm sure a lot of you were into the NCAA tournament, but in 1990, it's a great story. The Loyola Marymount Lions made it to the final, the Elite Eight, and they played, I remember because I covered the tournament, the Sweet 16 part of it, here in the Bay Area. Hank Gathers was the leading scorer in the nation in the late 1980s with Loyola Marymount. He was a big kid, 6'7", about 220 pounds, out of Philadelphia, kind of like Bernard King, top-ranked high school player, led the nation in scoring at Loyola Marymount with 34 points and I think about 12 rebounds a game. Not a great outside shooter, mostly a slasher, a guy who would take the alley-oop. Anyway, late in the season, and I'll never forget this, it was the day before my dad turned 70. We were celebrating his birthday down in Monterey, and I hear this horrible story about how this basketball player, well-known basketball player, had died on the court. It was Hank Gathers. He had a rare heart disease, and he was taking medication for it, but he didn't take enough medication, and he died. One of his teammates, Bo Kimball, they stopped the game, of course, and they didn't play anymore. But one of his teammates, Bo Kimball, for the rest of the season, since Hank was a bad free throw shooter and sometimes actually thought about shooting it left-handed, Bo would take every first shot that he had free throwing from the left side, left-handed. Only the first shot of the night from the free throw line, and he did that 3 times in this game against Alabama. And then against UNLV, against the great Larry Johnson and the UNLV national championship team that knocked out Loyola Marymount. But it was a wonderful story. Loyola Marymount had a good team, but to make it to the Elite Eight, that was not expected, especially without Hank Gathers, who had died a couple months before. And a postscript to that story is that, they had to settle a huge lawsuit. His family, I think, got $1.5 million, which, considering how much money he would have made, he would have been a big star in the NBA. And it's very sad.
Who did they settle with?
They didn't with the NCAA or the PAC or the whatever league. I'm just trying to think what league Loyola Marymount is in. They didn't have, and they do now. They have the paddles, the things that will stimulate the heart. They didn't have that on the sidelines in those days. That's why they have him on the side court now. They didn't have. He literally collapsed during the game. Right during the game, he had stuffed the ball in an alley-oop play, and then he went down. And he was sitting down, and a couple of his teammates and the medical guy comes over, and he says, "Don't touch me. I'm going to get up." And then he just lay down and died. His heart stopped, and there was nothing they could do because it wasn't a heart attack. It was a arrhythmia, which is a much different thing. Where the heart is being so fast, it's almost like.
So the paddles might have saved him?
The paddles would have saved him, but they didn't. In those days, they didn't have that, and I'm not sure if they sued because they weren't there, but they sued. It was not embarrassing, it was a very sad situation, but it was also a wake-up call because I don't think this had ever happened in basketball. I think it had happened in football. I believe a guy named Chuck Hughes with the Detroit Lions, a wide receiver back in 1971, died on the field. And I think he died of a heart attack, not an arrhythmia where the heart speeds up.
What was Len Bias? I'm trying to remember.
Len Bias had a reaction to, I believe it was cocaine. And he had a heart attack, and I'm not sure if it was the same kind of experience that Hank Gathers had where the heart just was going so fast that it wasn't really beating, it was just sort of vibrating.
Did he die on the court?
No, I don't believe so. He died, he was close to just starting his career, and then I think he'd been drafted. My brain is a little fuzzy here trying to remember. This is back in the mid-90s, I believe. Yeah. But, a lot of guys were messing around with cocaine. Mistake. Most of them probably be okay, but there's 1 or 2 of them that are not going to be okay. So that's why you stay away from that stuff. But anyway, Hank Gathers, a great name for the PAC. Interesting story about him. He and 3 other top recruits came out of the East Coast and were recruited by a fellow by the name of Stan Morrison, who was the USC coach. Stan was a terrific coach. They won the Pac-10 in those days and were able to get these 4 kids to come, and then they didn't win the next year because they had a lot of youngsters, And Morrison was fired. And they hired a guy named George Raveling, who was a very good coach, by the way. And George Raveling told the 4 kids, who were pretty upset that they fired Stan Morrison because he had recruited him along with his assistant. He said, you guys have to decide whether you're going to come back or not. And they didn't decide in time, so he cut him loose. And that's how Hank Gathers ended up going from USC, which was a huge Pac-12, Pac-10 school in those days, Pac-12, to a smaller school, Loyola Marymount, along with Bo Kimball. They were 2 of the 4. The other guys went, one guy stayed at USC, and the other guy, I'm not sure, he went, I think, to Pepperdine.
And Loyola is not that far from USC.
No, it's not, but it's a much smaller school. It's a private school, and it's had a good, that really kind of elevated the program. Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball coming there, and they had some good years, but that really put them on the map.
Sort of like the George Mason, kind of gets on the...
Well, and back in the day, USF, when Bill Russell was there, this is going way back to the 1950s, but also actually in the 70s, USF, when they had Bill Cartwright.
Oh, yeah.
They were very good. So,
played with Jordan.
And Quentin Daly. Yeah, that's right. I mentioned Quentin Daly. A lot of people don't know who he is. But, yeah, that's right. Bill Cartwright did play with Michael Jordan on the Bulls. That's right.
I remember that.
A very good player.
Little change here. Barry Bonds. Joining the Giants again.
Well, it's 10 years, Edward. 10 years it's been since he retired. He didn't really want to retire. Nobody else picked him up. He had a good year in 2007, but
they wanted to stay away from him.
He could have played another 3 or 4 years easily. He could have played in the American League until he was 50. He looks great now. He's lost all the weight. He looks like he's into bicycling. He lives in the city with I think he lives there with his wife. I'm not sure what his kids are doing, but he is not going to be a full-time coach, but he'll work with the players, which unfortunately in Miami, he was a full-time coach, and Don Mattingly, who was the manager, wanted a guy in there who would be more of a metrics guy and looking at a lot of tape. And Barry's not that kind of guy. Barry's the kind of guy that likes to get out of the field, watch a player, and sit there and literally work with him, face to face. And the athletes today, not unfortunately, but they're coached by guys, a lot of whom spend hours and hours and hours in front of a video, breaking it down and looking at statistics, and it's part of it. And Barry just isn't into that.
So, when you see when you're against Clayton Kershaw, and it's a Tuesday and it's a night game.
Well, yeah, I mean there are a lot of factors that go into what is he going to throw in this pitch? What's my history against him? With runners in scoring position. What is when he's down an account? What does he like to throw? I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, than the statistics. And Barry just isn't into all that. But he doesn't have to be. The guy was one of the best hitters of all time. When you're that good, it's kind of like telling somebody who is a great actor, oh, you've got to read everything on the script as it is. And then a great actor will take the script and stay true to it, but add his own little touch to make it that much better. That's Barry.
Well, sometimes, you got to go with your gut. There's no way he's going to throw me a fastball in this, and we'll be looking for an off-speed.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying about Barry, we haven't talked about how people are sort of reluctant to touch him because of his background. The Giant, he made the Giants what they are in some respects. He helped to get that ballpark really off and running. They won 3 titles in 4 years in that place. They won 3 titles. They went to the playoffs 3 times, almost won a World Series first 4 years. And he set the home run mark and the single season mark, and he had 360 one year. I mean, I know he did it with steroids, but he probably would have done it maybe not quite as spectacularly, but he still would have put up some good numbers. He put up great numbers before he did steroids.
Yeah, in Pittsburgh.
I think Mark McGwire doing the whole thing with Sammy Sosa really pissed him off. I remember being in the clubhouse in '98. He was looking at, we all were watching the TV images of these guys, and he didn't like it. And he goes, you wait till next year. And next year is when he started doing steroids, 1999. And we saw a huge difference, and he got injured that year because he was overly developed. I remember seeing him in spring training in 1999. He was about 190 pounds and about 6'3" the year previous. In 1999, he was about 220, 230. He put on about 40 pounds of muscle. He looked like a linebacker. I'm going, who is this guy? And he lost some of his mobility and flexibility, but he had the power. Yeah. He could hit the ball even further, and he was also a smarter hitter. His average was even better. But, you pay a price for that, and the price he paid is he probably won't go to the Hall of Fame for a long time, maybe not ever in his lifetime. Maybe not ever, which is unfortunate because he deserves to be there.
Yeah, I wonder how many sports writers will come on the scene who will kind of look past.
Oh, I think there already are. I think right now more than 50% would vote him into the Hall of Fame, no question. I mean, they took a poll recently. I think the last time he actually got a vote was last year, and I think he got close to 50%. I may be wrong, but I think it was close.
No, I wonder if you go back in time, where you had Okay, in the old days, you had guys throwing spitballs.
Oh yeah,
Right?
even up until the 1970s and 80s, sometimes they
Yeah.
got away with it. They had to be very creative. The grease ball they call it.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
Vaseline.
you know, I mean, okay, so it's one kind of cheating versus another.
Right.
For,
It's the whole idea of messing with your body to get an advantage. That's just, and it goes back to the integrity of the athlete. And I think, cheating with a spitball or doing other things, that's not.
to me, that's worse.
In some respects, it is. I mean, Gaylord Perry made a career out of using the grease ball. Without that pitch, he would have been an ordinary pitcher. In 1964, he was 26 years old, and he had pitched for 4 or 5 years already and hadn't had great stats. And he used it in an extra inning game against the New York Mets. They played, I think, 23 innings that night, and Perry pitched about 7 of them. And I don't believe he allowed a run. And he used it almost exclusively that night because he was tired. And from that point on, it became his bread and butter pitch. And he had, what a fabulous career that guy had.
And he got into the Hall of Fame, didn't he?
He got into the Hall of Fame. He was a 300-game winner. He won 20 games over 3 times.
Yeah, but
Won the Cy Young Award twice.
Are they going to take it away from him?
No.
No.
Of course not.
Right?
No.
And then, you look at, I'm trying to think of, okay, so how did he do it? He just put Vaseline on
He
his
put Vaseline on it, and the way he did it was, they knew he was doing it, but they couldn't figure out where he was hiding it. And where he hid it was, he hid it in the most unusual places. He hid it on the inside of his ear canal. So what umpire is going to come up there and stick the finger in the ear? That's one place he hid it. Another place, it wasn't the bill of the cap, but it was someplace fairly obvious, but they just never looked there.
And did it make the ball spin a certain
Well,
way?
it just made it drop or slide or, it did some crazy things. A spitball it's kind of like, the old Ephus pitch they used to call it, where the ball just, it doesn't move. Not only does it not move in a straight line, but very few balls to the plate do move in a straight line. But it just went all over the place, and it was impossible. And also, Gaylord would drive hitters crazy because he'd make all these. He'd sit there and touch the brim of his cap, touch his side of his face, touch his side of his. He'd touch about 5 or 6 places, and the hitter's going, I wonder where he's getting it from. Sometimes he wouldn't throw it. Where's he picking it up from? They would get in their heads. He was the ultimate psych, with that. I mean, he really messed with those guys.
See, and then there's other people I know you'd like to kick out of the Hall of Fame, like Cap Anson, because
but Cap Anson, give him his due. He was one of the first great players. He was a vicious racist, though. He pushed, the cause of black players getting into baseball back, many years.
I think he was the first 3,000 hit player. If I'm not
Might have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's our last trivia question: who is the only pitcher who has thrown 9 pitches, all strikes, to retire the side once in the AL and once in the NL?
That's a good question.
He's done a few times.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
that's
a
our
good
question.
Oh.
Stay with us. Sports Econ 101. I'll be right back.
That's a good one. I don't even think I'm going to try to guess on that one. I remember seeing that done a few years ago. I don't remember who did it, though. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been somebody who's thrown 9 pitches, swung and missed. Maybe 9 strikes, called and swung and missed. But can you imagine somebody throwing 9 pitches, swung and missed? I've seen it happen. I've heard of it happening, like 2 hitters back to back, but not 3. Yeah. That would be, strike, swing, you're out.
Maybe Gaylord Perry.
He was a high strikeout pitcher, actually, and he didn't have a great fastball. Sandy Koufax was Koufax and Gibson. Boy, those guys. Ugh. And Walter Johnson. Yeah.
Throw a fastball. If that didn't work, you throw a faster one.
Well, and it's the neat thing about Walter Johnson. He didn't get to play in a World Series, but he did get to play in one. Finally, he was he was 40 years old.
1925.
Yeah. Beat the Giants.
Yeah. On
the bad hop single that bounced over Freddie Lindstrom's head. And the great story is Calvin Coolidge was president, and the story is that he and his wife Grace were dancing on the dugout. Calvin Coolidge, you never showed any emotion.
Yeah.
That's
and whose head did they go over?
An infielder by the name of Freddie Lindstrom. There was a ball that was hit right to him, and it hit a pebble and just went, and that ended up scoring either the winning run or the tying run, because then the Giants were like 3 outs away from winning. I think they lost it in extra innings.
So yeah, because he did. That's the only World Series he did.
Yeah, he came on and pitched in relief, I believe. And I'm not sure if he got the win, but he pitched like 6 or 7 shutout innings.
Gotcha.
Maybe kept the Giants from pulling away.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. We asked an interesting trivia question about baseball. Who is the one pitcher who has thrown 9 pitches, all strikes, to retire the side once in the AL and once in the NL?
That's a great question, and I have no clue.
Well, you'll know this player, so you got to think
No,
of a pitcher who's pitched in both leagues.
Okay.
Right?
Fairly recently?
No,
20 years ago?
no, further than that.
30? Back in the 80s?
No, before then.
70s?
60s and 70s.
60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Ooh. Ferguson Jenkins?
No, but keep going. You're
Oh, God,
come on, who's a famous pitcher?
Steve Carlton, but that was
Yeah.
later. That was later.
Who's the one who's the one who used to throw the fastest back then?
Well, like Bob Gibson and Sandy Koufax,
Yeah,
but
those
they
were
both
before.
they both played the National League, you know.
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan. How could I
Nolan
forget?
Ryan,
Yeah.
And
Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, and with the Mets and then with the Angels.
I saw Nolan Ryan pitch he pitched, I believe, 6 no-hitters, and I saw the 5th one. He pitched it for Texas against the A's.
Yeah.
And I remember afterwards going to interview him with all the rest of the media, and he was sitting on an exercycle. And the guy was, at the time, I think he was 43.
Yeah.
And he's just, he's talking in a normal voice, very calmly about how he pitched, and very matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
And he's on this exercise after the game, and it was just, it was kind of an interesting
It was
experience.
probably right after the Robin Ventura founding.
No, it was before that, I believe. Yeah, that was funny, where he grabbed Robin and her in the headlock and gave him a noogie. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to teach you a lesson, young man.
All right, I tell you what, next week, we didn't get a chance to do it this time. Next week, we're going to talk about the different football teams that have spent lots of money and gotten not too far with it.
There's a lot of teams in all sports that do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, here's our thoughts for today. Vitas Gerulaitis, remember him?
Oh,
the
of
Mets player?
course, yeah.
He said, nobody beats Vita Gerulaitis 17 times in a row. And this was after beating Jimmy Connors after the 16 consecutive losses.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And Muhammad Ali said, I didn't remember this one. He says, I should be a postage stamp. That's the only way I'll ever get licked. All right, tune in next week.
I like that.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. Well, we'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
It's funny. It's not funny. I get out of the water today, and the phone is ringing in my car, so I'm half wet.